This is Pulse 95.
Pulse 95.
It's the Morning Majlis.
It's the Morning Majlis.
Talking the stories that are shaping headlines, plus those that make you go,
Hi everybody, good morning. Welcome back to the Morning Majlis, the show where we talk about stories shaping the headlines. And we have a lot to get to this morning. Pretty big news, in fact, especially with regards to travel. And for UAE residents who are stranded abroad and waiting to come back to the UAE. Travel guidelines have been revised, and this should be a great relief for those individuals who are stranded abroad. So stay tuned as we announce what those revisions are, what you need to do if you are stranded abroad and need to come back. We also have a number of big interviews lined up this morning.
That's right. Her Highness Sheikha Jawahar bint Mohammed Al Qasimi, wife of His Highness the ruler of Sharjah and chairperson of the Big Heart Foundation and eminent advocate for refugee children at UNHCR, has announced the new Sharjah-based emergency aid and relief campaign of Salam Beirut. Now, how can we take part in lending a helping hand to those affected in Lebanon by this massive blast that displaced thousands of Lebanese people, injured and killed many? Here to talk to us about this campaign into further details is Alia Ubaid Al Musaibi, head of media at the Big Heart Foundation. And that conversation will be right after 8:30.
Yes, it's going to be a very busy show indeed. We are talking about very topical discussions. It's going to be a little bit of a Majlis debate as well, particularly when it comes to schools reopening. School buses in Sharjah are also operating at 50% capacity. That means people will now either have to pay a little bit more for their school buses or have to drive their school children themselves. What are your plans? Well, how are you going to cope with the situation? Text lines remain open 4215, and we all heard the guidelines issued by the Sharjah Private Education Authority to the schools in the Emirate of Sharjah about how they can ensure safety and how they can and what measures they need to put in place as they begin the reopening of the educational establishments. To get a bit more of a clarity for all the parents, for all residents of the country out there as well, we've got Lahib Al Mutwalli, who is the quality expert at the Sharjah Private Education Authority, who will be joining us on the lines just after 8:30 to get more information and more details about the new guidelines that are in place. So yes, it's going to be a busy show indeed. Get involved on the text lines 4215. We'll be taking your thoughts and opinions throughout the show, particularly when it comes to the reopening of schools and what you need to do. And one sad story that we'll be talking about is Toshiba laptops. What's happening to them? All this will be discussed right here on the Morning Majlis.
Pulse 95. Between local lines, notes from the Emirate.
Hello, good morning and welcome back on to the Morning Majlis. A topical discussion indeed, and a topical point to ponder over. Schools are going to be reopening, and we are talking about Sharjah Private Education Authority giving the date of 30th of August for schools to restart, and physical learning is going to be one aspect. And a lot of parents are wondering, lots of questions have been shared with us. You can also share your questions on the text lines 4215 to answer them all, and also to join our Morning Majlis. We have Lahib Al Mutwalli, who is the quality expert at the Sharjah Private Education Authority, who has taken time out this morning to join us today. And a very good morning to you, Lahib.
Good morning to you all.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you on air with us, and we'd like to discuss this in greater detail. Now, you've issued a 29-page document and a guideline. We'd like to know what are the key recommendations from there, and where are we going with this?
Sure. Well, SPIA has collaborated with both the federal and local entities in the UAE to establish these operational guidelines for school reopening. And it was agreed upon by all the entities. And when I'm speaking about entities, I'm talking about the Federal Ministry of Education, the Abu Dhabi, the Dubai, and the Sharjah education regulators. And there's been consensus on the key requirements for school reopening. As you mentioned, it's a big document. There are about 150 items in this document, and it's been circulated among Sharjah private schools over a week ago. The key guidelines revolve around the COVID-19 testing. So in Sharjah, we will be testing all students, teachers, and school staff before entering school, and this will actually take place starting next week.
Mm-hmm.
So also there is the provision about physical distancing, and it's been agreed that 1.5 meters between students at all times should be maintained. There is also a provision about the school cleaning and hygiene procedures, the PPEs and hand washing, the school buses, the at-risk categories, the school clinic procedures in case of a suspected or a confirmed case, and so on and so forth. And we've, as I said, we've circulated the English version of the guidelines, and the Arabic ones will follow today, inshallah.
But Lahib, don't you think those measures will affect the education process?
We feel it should affect it in a positive way, because it will enhance the trust in the education system. It will give that reassurance to parents to send their children to school, back to school. We did perform a survey a couple of months ago, and to see how parents feel about going back to school, going back to the on-site learning. 60% were of the opinion that yes, they're ready to send their children back. 39 or 40% were a bit hesitant, and hence we had to do these stringent requirements and to make sure that schools will abide by. At the end of the day, we all need a safe and healthy environment for the children to go back to where they are risk-free, or at least the risk is minimized as much as possible.
And Lahib, go ahead, please.
No problem. So I was just closing that it should actually not in any way, shape, or form jeopardize the quality of education.
Lahib, we're going to get more into detail about the key guidelines for the reopenings of schools and questions, for instance, on mask wearing and such. But we've been getting a lot of messages from concerned parents about this. And what they would like to know is, how would you ensure that the schools comply with the guidelines you set forth? Because it's one thing sending schools a number of guidelines. What is the Sharjah Private Education Authority going to do about ensuring that the schools follow those guidelines, and what would happen to violators, for instance?
Yes. Sharjah Private Education Authority will surely be monitoring the school's compliance with the guidelines. The first step we've asked the schools to do is to build their operation plans in response to these guidelines. And the end of this week is the deadline for submission of these operational plans. Part of these operational plans, of course, is how they will communicate to parents, how they will educate the students and teachers and everybody involved in the education activity on how to go about these precautionary measures. Then we will be sending multidisciplinary inspection teams prior to school openings to ensure the full compliance. Of course, gaps and challenges must be identified earlier in the process and should be addressed immediately. And of course, there will be other sort of inspection teams going after the opening at certain intervals throughout the year, or throughout the first term at least. In case of non-compliance, well, it's at the discretion of Sharjah Private Education Authority to decide a certain disciplinary action against the school in question. It could be a fine, it could be a suspension, it could be going back to distance learning until further notice. It will be a case-to-case basis.
And looking further into the guidelines, particularly with mask wearing, are there certain age groups that are exempt from wearing masks? Can you elaborate a bit more on the specific instructions that are expected of students and teachers during this time?
Sure. So as far as students are concerned, at the age of 6 and above should be wearing masks all the time. Teachers should be wearing masks all the time. anyone who's at risk should basically, or who's not feeling well, should be staying home, should not be going to school. There are times when, let's say in KG age, a child is not necessarily sick with COVID, or it's just probably a cold or flu. Of course, again, we recommend that they stay at home. But if they were found to be sick at school on site, then they should definitely be taken to an isolation area where they will be checked by the school clinic and will not be allowed to go back to school. The parents will be contacted. The health authorities will be contacted. It depends on the case, of course, the severity of the case. Yeah. But masks should definitely be worn all the time.
So I'm pretty certain that teachers are geared up for this reopening phase, but can you elaborate more on what training has been offered to them?
Yes. Actually, we are coordinating a big training program, not just for teachers, students, principals, and parents. We're coordinating with various local authorities in Sharjah, including the Health Promotion Department and the Supreme Council for Family Affairs and the Authority for the Prevention and Safety. I'm trying to translate the name from Arabic to English.
Prevention Safety Authority, yes.
Anyway.
Yes.
Yeah. And so anyway, the most, of course, important of these training programs would be the COVID-19 safety training, because it's actually a prerequisite for school openings. That all teachers, as principals and school staff, of course, including the school clinic staff, the medical staff, should be trained on the safety measure, the COVID-19 safety measures. And they will be actually certified not by SPIA, but we will be actually delivering these programs through the Sharjah Education Academy platforms. You know that we have launched this big project 2 to 3 weeks back.
True.
And so we now have a Sharjah Education Academy, which will offer training and degree granting programs in the future. So all the attendees of these programs will be receiving certificates, and they need to show evidence of them attending these trainings. Other trainings, of course, revolve around the wellness, the healthy practices. And when I talk about health, I'm talking about it in the holistic way. We're talking about physical, emotional, mental, psychological, social health of students and all concerned.
Just another quick question about the guidelines as far as children, because children like to play with each other. Are schools in Sharjah going to impose strict limits on contact within children themselves? Are there going to be any measures to ensure that children are distanced from each other, or is it going to be different from that?
Yeah, that is actually the difficult part.
Yeah.
Especially the younger ones in particular. It will not be easy to keep them apart. And not to share their things. They like to share their toys and material and stuff. So yes, we will have to do that. They'll have to, the distance of 1.5 meters should be kept at all times. The masks should be worn. The cleaning and hand washing hygiene, the sanitizers are there everywhere around them. And for the younger ones, the younger than 6 years old, we're proposing to keep them in groups of maximum 10. And these groups will be like dealing, let's say, with one teacher and one teacher assistant and one helper. So throughout the whole term, the first term, they will be the same people in that group. And of course, again, they will be in their designated areas. They will not be moving from one place to the other. It's going to be tough for these guys, but we'll try to do whatever it takes to to abide by the precautionary measures.
Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed for you. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. The quality expert at Sharjah Private Education Authority, Lahib Al Mutwalli, and we look forward to bringing you in the studios in the near future.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. And I hope I was able to provide some information, some level of information to you and your listeners.
You did.
Thank you very much.
You did, certainly did. Thank you once again for joining us. And stay tuned to Pulse 95. There's lots to get through this morning, and we'll be right back after this short interval.
Pulse 95. Between local lines. Notes from the Emirate.
Hello, welcome back onto the show. And we're talking about the Sharjah-based emergency aid and relief campaign of Salam Beirut. Her Highness Sheikha Jawahar bint Mohammed Al Qasimi, wife of His Highness, the ruler of Sharjah and chairperson of the Big Heart Foundation, and eminent advocate for refugee children at UNHCR, has announced the launch of this new campaign here in Sharjah. So how can we take part in lending a helping hand to those affected in Lebanon by this massive blast that displaced thousands of Lebanese people, injured and killed so many people as well? So here to talk to us about this into further details and about this campaign in particular is Ali Ubaid Al Musaibi, head of media at the Big Heart Foundation. Good morning, Alia.
Hi, good morning.
So can you please start talking to us about the Salam Beirut campaign and what it's all about?
Sure. So the Salam Beirut campaign is an emergency aid and relief campaign from Sharjah, which follows the tragic explosion in the port of Beirut, which has claimed over 150 lives and left an estimated 300,000 homeless. Salam Beirut aims to bring relief to the affected populations, whose numbers continue to rise as Lebanese officials pick through the wreckage. The first phase of response will focus on providing medical aid, food, and water supplies and shelter to victims, which will be mobilized by Sharjah-based global humanitarian organization, the Big Heart Foundation, in coordination with on-ground relief operators in Lebanon. From the moment the news of the accident became known to the Big Heart Foundation, the organization has ramped up efforts to contact its local and international partners to rally support and raise funds to deliver emergency aid and relief to those most affected. Also, the Big Heart Foundation officials, along with their local partners, will carry out a detailed assessment of the damage to property to implement targeted activities to provide affected households with rehabilitation support, including rubble removal, in addition to offering solutions to boost vital services like electricity, sanitation, plumbing, and carpentry maintenance.
So how will the relief aid be sent to Beirut and reach there, and when will that happen?
We are coordinating at the moment with partners on the ground, and we expect to be able to start supporting emergency relief efforts by next week. We will not be sending any items from the UAE as part of the campaign. We will be supporting the work being done on the ground. We will be supporting the work being done on the ground by credible local NGOs and international charities and UN agencies. Sourcing and procuring our relief items from Lebanon, and more specifically Beirut, helps boost the local economy in Lebanon, and working with local NGOs and local community volunteers represents the type of approach the Big Heart Foundation usually strives for. It helps local NGOs grow and play a more important role in recovery, preparedness, and mitigation efforts moving forward.
Mm-hmm. So are we just appealing to the public over here to predominantly share the donations via your online platforms at the moment, or is there going to be a collection drive that you're going to do at the offices of the Big Heart Foundation? In terms of how can the public be involved?
So if you'd like to contribute and help save the lives of those left stranded by the disaster, we created a special SMS link for the campaign. And you can do so by bank transfers to our Sharjah Islamic Bank account. Both details, the link and the bank accounts, can be found on our social media accounts, the Big Heart UAE. Also, you can contact us on 055 7574 930 to get all the needed details.
Well, we're looking forward to that, and hopefully we wish you all the very best in your humanitarian efforts in Beirut with the Salam Beirut campaign. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. I know that you've got a very busy day ahead with more interviews lined up.
Thank you so much.
Well, we look forward to welcoming you at some point soon. That was Alia Obaid Al-Musaibi, who is the head of media at the Big Heart Foundation. Time now for us to take a bit of a breather. We'll be focusing on the world of public libraries right after the news headlines. So stay tuned to Pulse 95.
Pulse 95. Between local lines. Notes from the Emirate.
Very good morning and welcome back on to the Morning Majlis. We're talking about Sharjah Public Libraries. Now, I'm trying to rethink back to my time at the University of Leeds when I used to frequent a library a lot more than I do now, even though we're right next door and we love going to the Sharjah Public Library as well. But I remember the times when we used to borrow a book from the library, and when you had the deadline to return it, you'd go into the easy return lockers, drop it off. Next day, you're told, by the way, we've processed the book's return in 24 hours. You've been fined £20 for returning your book late. And you're thinking, £20 as a student, that's a lot of money.
Right.
But now, Sharjah Public Library, for all those people like me who are very, very late returners, have a wonderful option of borrowing books and returning them, and it's called a Smart Locker service. To talk to us a little bit more about this, we have Iman Bushlaibi, the director of Sharjah Public Libraries, who's joined us this morning. A very good morning to you, Iman.
Good morning. It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you on with us. Now, have you faced customers like me who've just returned books and got a fine or been told, well, late return, and now that we've got this smart locker system is going to make things easier for us?
That's right.
Well, talk to us about the smart locker system and how does it work?
Well, the Smart Locker service that we have launched recently, it is an extension to a service that we used to have. And of course, I've spoken about this on Pulse Radio before.
Mm-hmm.
It was the drive-through book return. So, due to the current situation and the circumstances, because of the outbreak of COVID-19, we were thinking how we can provide our members a safe way to get their books without contacting any of the employees, or like they would feel more safer when they get the things that they want themselves. So we decided to extend the service that we have, and also try to promote the service of book reservation, which we used to have, but it involved coming to the library, and it involved also sticking to the working times of the library. So this is how it came to be. We just launched it, and people are very happy with it.
So how can the visitors pre-book the reading materials? Can you take us through that process?
The process of using the Smart Locker is very simple. Of course, borrowing and lending is a service that we provide our members, the members of Sharjah Public Libraries, and through using your Emirates ID or your membership card, you can enter your account through our website and check the catalog of the books, decide what are the materials that you want, and just reserve them online through that account. During that time, we would take care of the process, prepare the material that you have requested, take them through the process of sanitizing them and putting them in the Smart Locker. When the process is done, you'll get an SMS or an email to tell you that your materials are ready to pick up. So you have the opportunity for 24 hours during the 7 days of week to come and pick up your material that you have reserved.
Iman, first of all, a quick note, the mic keeps bumping into something. Maybe you're a little too close to it, or there's a fabric bumping into it. So let's start by talking about the precautionary measures, because it's pretty interesting. Books, people come into contact with them, people read them for a prolonged period. Amid the coronavirus, are you taking any precautions here to keep the customers of Sharjah Public Library safe?
Yes, of course. So Sharjah Public Libraries, as all other entities, they take care of their employees and their members too, their visitors. So what we did is, in the beginning, we implemented all the guidelines that were announced and directed to do. So we do have distance. We have, imposed the distance between the visitors. We had them use the services that we have depending on the capacity, which is the best capacity depending on the branch. Also, we do have regular sanitizing programs on daily basis. The library gets sanitized almost 14 hours a day, and also we do have equipment and machinery to help us sanitize the books all the time. So it is something that the visitor can use when they come into the library. They can go get the book, because we do have guidelines where you have to come in with your mask on, wearing gloves. And we can help you through that if you need to change, or if there's if an emergency happened. We help our visitors with that and members. So we do have the equipment, we do have the machinery, we do have supporting items for you to feel safe in the library.
Now, there's going to be a lot of people who are listening to us this morning and thinking, you know what, now I have to sign up for that membership with the Sharjah Public Libraries because I felt a little bit safer with the smart locker system. So what measures do they need to do? Can they communicate via email and send in scanned copies of their Emirates ID? Do they need Emirates ID to be able to borrow the books? What's the process at the moment?
As you know, for you to borrow a book or you have to be a member in the library, because borrowing is a service that is only for the members. But you can come and visit the library anytime, look at the books anytime, use the services on location anytime, and it doesn't require a membership. But borrowing books really requires a membership. So, and the membership is very easy to obtain. You can do it online any time of the day, and it doesn't take more than 10 minutes. So,
wow. Straightforward process. And so let's catch up on the smart locker system. It's how many lockers do we have, and are they live? Are they ongoing at the moment? And how's the response been so far?
Oh, yes. We do have 48 lockers, and they are working at the moment. So we did have a lot of our members using them and requiring this service. Actually, we did have a lot of requests from our members to have a service that would work 24/7 for them, given their working times, or like their personal time is always occupied with things to do, and coming into the library could take a long time from you. So we try to come up with this service. And the thing about this service is you don't only have to do it through the website. You can call us, leave us a voice message, or call our employees, and they will help you through it. They will help you even picking the material that you want if you are not sure about the material that you want. So it's something that we want our members to enjoy having, and also to help them save time of the day.
And save the fines, because the fines is a big problem. If you don't return the books in time, it can leave a hole.
You know what's really interesting is even during the outbreak, our members were very keen on borrowing books and returning the books that they had. And it's not about fines, really. It's their love for the books, and that's why we had an initiative that we started during the outbreak, encouraging them to have our smart membership. And it was for everyone around the world. We didn't say, well, this membership is only allowed or given for people in the UAE or the GCC countries. It's for everyone who loves the written word. So I think our members really enjoy reading books, and the thing is that we don't really have a lot of members who are late to bring back the books.
Well, look at that. If only they were living in Leeds with the cold weather conditions there, you could always be late. You never know. But it's really a pleasure to have you on air with us, Iman Bouchleibi, the Director of Sharjah Public Libraries, and we look forward to welcoming you in the studios at some point soon again.
Hopefully. Thank you very much.
Well, that was a very fruitful discussion. Food for thought. All about the books, all about the smart locker system. We'll be right back here on the Morning Majlis, because apart from being on digital platforms to borrow books, you can now use WhatsApp to buy your groceries with Sharjah Cooperative Society. What's happening? All this will be discussed right here on the Morning Majlis.
The heart of Sharjah.
This is Pulse 95.
95. Heart of Sharjah.